All right. I love that song. Okay. I have a Waylon for you, but let's get going today. Gosh, by myself. Justin's not here. Let's go. Here we go. Oops. I should have cut music. Wait a minute. I can't do two things at once. I really can't. I really can't. Okay, here we go. Here we go. I wish I was a magician. I'm just not.
Thinking is hard. So just do what the government says. That Kate Daly show starts now.
I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart, and then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for third-grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
For more information, visit tryabrain.com.
Everybody! Come on! Everybody! Come on!
Oh, I love that clip. Everybody love everybody. Come on. Unity. It's the new buzzword, is it not? All right, so welcome to the Monday show. Got a lot to say. I did a Facebook post. I was up all night. I didn't actually ever sleep. It's so bad, isn't it? That happens sometimes. What can I say? And there was a lot to unpack, and so I was kind of unpacking that online. I haven't done one of those posts for a long time. It was one of those. And this and this and this and this. And if you're not aware, this too. Now, I didn't go into tons of detail, so I have people trolling my page and mocking what I'm saying. And because if I went into detail, it would be 5,000 pages long as a post that no one would read on Facebook. So I allude to it so that people go and do their homework. And I assure you, once you do the homework, I think you'll land in the same places. But Facebook, social media can be, like we talked about last week, social media can be a great instigator for asking questions, because one of our biggest problems right now is not being curious enough. So it's actually a great way to kind of go, hey, here's an idea, and then let people roll with that. If they're really serious about doing that kind of deep dive. Most people aren't. They don't want to spend the time. I mean, I've been spending the time daily for 15 years, but people usually don't want to go there. And that's okay. I understand. It's not okay, but I understand. I understand why. So I will go through that just a little bit with you and give you some more context and details as I promised on today's show. But today's show is really, I can't even talk today. Today's show is a lot about ulterior motives. Okay. Ulterior motives. I am live on camera on YouTube, on X, on Rumble right now. And so I appreciate your comments coming in. I appreciate your, because you can put comments there. I'll see them. And then also the texting number, which is, the texting number is 435, almost forgot my own number, 680-2503. Okay. All right. So there's a lot to say. I'm going to give you opportunities. I really am today, because I want to hear from you. I also want to hear exactly, I mean, just any kind of thought today. I'm game. I want to hear it because I know you have a lot of input, and I always have so many people troll me that sometimes you can get a little lost. People just think that they got it going on and they're going to just tell me what's up. And I'm like, just listen to what I have to say. You don't have to even walk away going, that's true. All you have to do is just take it in. Just say, okay. But I think that today's show is important for a lot of reasons because maybe people will connect more dots today. I have a feeling. So, okay. All right. So I'm getting some messages and, the internet here in my area, Virginia, ground to a halt. Oh, this must have been the last show. Can't pull down YouTube or Rumble. Yeah, there are a lot of internet problems, a lot of things happening there. There's just a lot. So let's kind of go into maybe something I haven't talked about on the show. Maybe this will be fun because I don't think I ever. And I know I did not cover this. We have what's called front companies, and I've talked about Amazon. I've talked about Elon, and I know people like Elon because he says a lot of the right things. I get it. I like some of the things he says, but I still know that he's a front man. And that came from a lot of research in really kind of figuring out who he was and how he was put on the stage. And it was by selling a company, and that company, the millions of dollars, I think it was over $360 million because it really wasn't worth that. But a front company paid that money. They never did anything with it, which makes a lot of sense, right? No. And then all of a sudden he was in Russia working on deals with the CIA and stuff. So there was a whole history there that I went through on one of the shows and discussed because I wanted to kind of point out how these people are funded, kind of the stories that are created, how it works, and then to kind of, say, okay, all the stuff that we deal with, like in the public eye and also in popularity, like Google, like YouTube, like PayPal, like all of these, they are the most popular for a reason. They're the ones we all utilize for a reason. And so they have offices in the White House. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? So there's just a lot there. And I feel like sometimes all of that gets kind of lost because they continuously present themselves as geniuses and as private companies. So one of the things that I want to talk about for just a moment is how much of the apparatus is going on right now. Okay. So take a company like, is Starbucks. Okay. Starbucks came onto the scene and they sort of compare Howard, the CEO, to like a Ray Kroc of McDonald's. They sort of say, okay, he aggressively, which is kind of a funny word to use, aggressive success, landed some of the very best locations all around the world. This wasn't a sort of like In-N-Out story, In-N-Out Burger, where it took them 40 years to really get into their status, 30 years to really get into their status and grow. Okay. Because this wasn't organic. It was basically an overnight, everywhere around the globe kind of situation. And the problem with this is that we don't see, or we don't really ask questions about that. We kind of take it in like, oh, wow, well, good for them, and then the thinking stops. So there were a couple of things that Starbucks did that were, I'm going to say interesting for lack of a better word right now, because I think that word is overused on my show, but let's go there for just a second. They had digital payment tracking systems, and they were one of the first companies to come out and really push it. Okay. They landed the best real estate, high traffic real estate, okay, which is very, very difficult to do all at one time. Like when you're growing like that fast, it's difficult. You got to have some big bucks, okay? Now remember, this is just coffee, overpriced coffee, okay? Keep that in mind. Then you have conversation, I would say, monitoring an apparatus of maybe picking up on a lot of conversations and data that runs through. Now, lots of companies have data. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when you look at Starbucks, it's kind of interesting because they have a very sophisticated loyalty program for coffee. For coffee. Okay. Very sophisticated, state of the art, grabs your info. And then also just a lot of well, when they're offering you to come and just kind of think back on Starbucks when it was first coming out and really developing. It was come and work on your computer here, spend all day here, talk with people here. Here's a great meeting place for you and your business. I think there was a reason for that. And is it about the coffee? Well, you could say money is, obviously something that is desired. Okay, I'm not saying that it's not about the coffee. I'm just saying I thought there was way more. Okay, they put an emphasis on becoming a third place to hang out in your life. They had a massive investment in user data. So there were a lot of things about Starbucks, and I think what's and social connections. I mean, all kinds of things. So when you kind of take this and you're looking at it maybe through a different set of goggles right now, if you will, okay, and you're kind of maybe seeing a bigger picture that could have been laid out with Starbucks. I'm not saying I'm right. This is conjecture. So this is Kate going, I think this is a sign that this would be a front company, okay, utilizing, coffee, okay, something very simple. Something very, it kind of made it into the now you're going to buy a $10 coffee every morning kind of thing. Okay. But I think there was more to it than that. So it wasn't about just changing the culture into this like, fancy coffee buying culture. It was more of an apparatus being laid down. And the deep dives that I've done in the past, and I've talked about this somewhat on the show already, is the different companies that have a lot of intelligence money and that they might be serving alternative purposes like McDonnell Douglas, like Westinghouse, like Boeing. I think that's completely owned. And then, of course, Mitsubishi, I can't say that word. Ryder Trucks was another one that came into view as I was doing a lot of research. IG Farben, a lot of companies that present themselves as private that have these sort of weird appearance of private, but weirdly funded. Okay. And the mechanisms, okay, that go into these companies and the availability to do things that people other companies don't have, like cable companies, like companies that have access. Let's say that access to systems to your life. Okay, I don't think they were ever going to just let that go to straight up capitalism. I think they wanted and made sure that the companies that became popular were the companies that were accessing and mechanizing and making sure that they could maybe like own those apparatuses of spying, of access. Okay, so there's lots of companies, McDonnell Douglas, EG&G. I could go into so many. Okay. Now, Howard, the CEO of Starbucks, started out at Xerox, which was a company that, again, had a lot of data systems, a lot of things to control, and was everywhere. Okay, very, very hard to do to grow it quickly. But he worked for Xerox. And I mean, as a young one, okay, like right out of college. And then he worked for a company in France, an investment arm in France that is one of the oldest investment arms that is global and into billions. Okay. And I'm sorry, when you're a punk and you're 21, this is probably not the job that most people get offered. Move to Europe and be part of this financial arm where people can't track where the funding's coming from. And this is more like looks like more like a InQtel or a intelligence funded business to allocate funds because it's a funding company. Okay. So at 21, you're probably not going to get that kind of exposure into, you always have to ask what's plausible, what's reasonable, and you're probably not going to get that kind of opportunity. I know when I was 21, big billion-dollar companies over in Paris were not knocking my door down. Okay. So something is there that people probably need to do. I'm going to just skim the surface on Howard, but you can do more research on him. And I think it'll become pretty evident that he was an asset. Okay. So you have a lot of assets running the show. Now, here is kind of this simple explanation, because I had somebody say to me on Facebook, well, my dad worked for said company, Xerox, so he was a anti-government libertarian. So you're basically, your theory isn't working. And I said, well, that's not how it works though. So when you're in a frontman company just means that the mission of the company is basically owned by the government through the funding by the government. But it doesn't mean that everyone working there understands that or is there for that reason or deals in that. Okay. So I would never say that every single person at a company, at a front company, would know or have knowledge that they were at a front company. I've said this before. My dad worked on a space capsule. Okay. In California, there were some components that went to the space capsule. He wasn't an inside guy. So a lot of people work there. It's kind of like you have a few chiefs that understand the mission, and then you've got a lot of Indians. If you were to walk into a manufacturing plant, the people sitting in the nice plushy offices would understand what the 10-year goal is, but the person coming in to make the parts, probably not. So being a front company does not mean that the entire company is taken. But I was kind of giggling because I'm like, really? Okay. I didn't think I actually had to explain that, but yeah, you can have a lot of people working for an entity and not know what the direction of the entity is and what's being given to the government. So a front company like Ryder Trucks means that all the drivers are not in on it, but the overall capability of sharing this information with the government exists, and that there's compartmentalization, which means that the people working there are on a need-to-know basis. And then I was asked the question, so, how many people actually run things? And I would say probably 300 to 500 people. I would say that you have probably 300 to 500 entities and people that are actually sort of running the show. And I know people are going to have a hard time with that because, well, they just are. They're going to have a hard time with that because it seems like a very small group. Because I was asked, how do you keep billions in on a secret? Well, you don't. You never do. It's not about billions of people or even millions or even thousands being in on ultimate goals and plans. It's more about utilizing people for a purpose, and they only know their piece. So there's that. So let me go to this Facebook post and I'll open up the phone lines. And of course, if you want to make comments, I have absolutely no problem with that. You can comment. You can. I'll give you what I think is going on. And by the way, Dr. Pesta was ill today, so wasn't going to come on. So sorry about that. Okay. All right. So here we go. I want to give you my post a little bit on Facebook because it'll kind of move me through some of these items that we need to discuss. Okay. So Amazon was never set up to sell products. It was never about the products. It was always about the data and behavior of the people buying the products. Okay. Starbucks was never about the coffee. It was propped up by the government to collect data, to introduce things, to push things like digital payments before everybody else. But it wasn't really about the coffee. The coffee was just the utilization. Okay. That was just the thing to utilize to do said thing. Okay. All right. So Windows, same thing. And we all know that Billy Boy was off at Harvard, looked like he was 14 and ridiculous, and was set as the president. But we all know that it was, because I've done a lot of shows on this, that it was manufactured the PC and the home computer and all of these things that Microsoft claims to have invented, and hoping nobody even looks back on history. But it was actually invented in the 60s by the Air Force intelligence. So they signed it over to Bill Gates as president when he looked 14 years old. Okay. You can go back and I would say to you, look at every single photo of Bill Gates standing by the computer as Paul is doing all the work, and he's standing there looking like he's important. Okay. He's never at the computer. All right. So there's that. Now, okay. You'll also notice that your Facebook page has been co-opted by carefully engineered professional pages. You'll see less of your friends' posts, okay? Because Facebook is owned by the government, all right? So for the last 2 years, you've been seeing all these pages to follow, all these things to follow. And you're probably thinking, where are my friends? I thought I was just on here with my buddies. And that is not the case, right? So why did they do this? Because they want you arguing with strangers over politics and all of the things that they're going to present to you based on what you click on in Facebook. So you're going to have to sift through all these professional pages to follow to try to get to your friends' posts. Okay. So it's utilizing it for a different purpose than what you originally signed on for, or what you really thought it was going to be about. Now, let me get to the shutdown. Okay. A lot of people right now are freaking out about Snap. Okay. So about not getting Snap. Now, sorry. So I want you to comment on this, 435-680-2503. But there's a lot of posts I'm seeing about starvation coming and that it's going to last forever. I don't think it will. I don't think that's the goal. So people aren't going to get their SNAP. Now, the first question we should be asking is, why do 42 million Americans out of 335 million Americans have SNAP? That's like 1 in 8. Crickets. Crickets. Total crickets. Wow. 42 million Americans on government assistance, which is taxpayer assistance, which government has no money unless they take it from everybody or print it illegally. So government assistance, 42 million Americans. Okay, let's push that aside for just a moment. Wow. And let's ask why this might be going on. So are they introducing new systems? Okay. Are they introducing are they going more digital with SNAP and making it so that the person that is getting the SNAP benefits has to jump through a lot more hoops in order to receive it? They have to be on board digitally. They have to have a smartphone. They have to have certain criteria. And so sometimes shutdowns can be a move for changing things out, right? We've had 21 shutdowns since 1976. 21. The longest one we had was 35 days, and it was back in 2019. So it's not as if these haven't happened, but is this one being used, and was the last one being used for more system uploads to be able to kind of transform the system? Because really the only time, I would imagine that it would be a great reason to use that time to reset the system, moving toward digital ID, moving toward digital transformation, because that's what we're going for right now. Everything else is distraction right now to keep your mind off of that. So that's why you're having Face ID now to pay a bill. You have Face ID to get into your bank. You have Face ID. Every time you turn around, go to the airport, you have Face ID. You don't have to comply, but that's where they're moving to. And they're telling you that you don't have to, you can use your password, I guess. We'll make it a few more clicks. It's going to be a pain in the rear, but Face ID is so much faster. So are they using this opportunity to upload new systems? Something to think about. Okay. All right. And then one of the other, let's see, COVID. Let me talk about COVID for a moment. Why? I was just reviewing some stuff by Dr. Makis, who was talking about digital transformation, and this really popped out at me. And I know that COVID was done for multiple layered reasons. Okay, I still I am not one of those that actually believe that COVID was a thing. Okay. I think well, there was that funny clip of Fauci and the guy that he went, do you remember when he went door to door and he was talking to people, and that one guy came out and he goes, I think this is all fear. You're just manipulating people. And then Fauci, in order to save himself from this conversation, to try to make it look better, actually revealed what had happened. And he goes, well, we've been working on this for 20 years. I thought it was a mystery. I thought COVID was a mystery. What do you mean 20 years? How do you have the cure for 20 years and then introduce the thing? Okay. So I think they co-opted flu. And in that same clip, he goes, yeah, the flu diminished. The flu is no more. By the way, the flu's back in the last 4 years. But in 2020, the flu was gone mysteriously. So what were the three real reasons? What was the ulterior motive for this? Well, number one, we had testing, control, compliance, and behavior. They were honestly really looking at how we behaved. What percentage of people were not going to get the shots? How many people were going to stand up to their employers and stand up to the health departments that were honestly a criminal element in the country? Okay, they became a very criminal element to me, public health, because it was like the Nazi orders being carried out, and they were fine and happy to do it. When I know people that work there were smarter than this and understood a little bit more to what was going on. So there's that. But it was a lot about behavior. They were testing behavior. They were testing systems. What would we do? How would people make it in a lockdown? Like, what was going to happen? The second reason was compromising health through their solution, okay, which was the shots. So the more important thing to them was to get you those shots and get them fast. And even in shutdowns, or even when everything was shut down in shortages, boy, they sure produced the signage and the shots, didn't they? Had zero problem doing so. So what was the third thing? Now, this is the most important thing, and this is what Dr. Makis was trying to point out. And this was about the digital transformation into medical AI. Now, I think this is really hard for people like you and I, normal people, even to really grasp what the future looks like in medicine. So they took over the hospitals, and the government was dictating care, okay, to the hospitals and paying them for it. Okay, so they would get a paycheck if they claimed COVID in any case. All right. And then the care would be dictated for COVID coming from the government. The government also owns more than 50% on the patents. You should probably ask yourself why that is. Why does the government own patents on vaccines? Okay. So, and they're not really vaccines, they're just shots. So the digital transformation that's coming is being incentivized by AI, being incentivized and dictated by AI in our future. In fact, if things will be so remote, done so remotely, how will they have that capability? How will you get care being remote? And I think we're going to start to understand a lot more things coming together, the shots plus this new AI approach, but and how they know what's going on in your body from afar. But I wanted to put forth the idea, as Dr. Makis did. I don't want to take credit for what he said, but he was like, doctors will be rooted out and AI will replace them. And because we don't want somebody with a conscience going, oh, wait a second, look what I'm seeing, look what's going on. We want AI to do it, right? They want AI to do it because then the outcome is absolute. It's just not up for debate. So you can't fake a card. You can't for shots. There's no faking it. Everything's going to be on the system. So that's why they want this kind of approach. Okay. A doctor can literally squeeze out the stuff and say, you got it. Okay. But they don't want that capability. So in the future, medicine is very, very, digitally transformed, should we say. And it's really freaking scary. That is so scary. Okay. So I want your comments. You can talk about any of these things. I'll share this one with you while you're calling in. So this was another thing that I was really looking at was Justice Scalia. Now, he died with a pillow over his face. If I ever die at a Democrat donor's house with a pillow over my face, yeah, please investigate and have a funeral or, at least an autopsy. He was shoved into the crematorium and done. Like, his family never came out and spoke about it. Were they threatened? I don't know. He was, his death was so obvious that I was just floored. Okay. And there were some votes coming up on executive power and Second Amendment, and those must have been extremely important. And I'll do more on this because I'll open this up more in research. But I just wanted to skim the surface a little bit, because what's interesting to me is you have private deaths like that. You have where it's not a lot of witnesses, rush him into a crematorium. And then you have Andrew Breitbart's death, same kind of thing, right? Done in a hotel room to make it look like he had a heart attack. But then you have the very public deaths of Charlie Kirk and JFK. And I'm not connecting those two, and I'm not putting them on the same level either. Just want you to know that. I'm just looking at the circumstance in which they were taken out. So I do believe that Tyler Robinson is a patsy. So therefore, then this was a concerted effort to take him out in front of everybody. But why? That's the question. Why? Why was he in this position to be taken out? What does that serve versus the quiet, like, killing off of somebody? Hi, caller. Welcome to the show and welcome to the conversation. How are you? Oh, sorry.
You have a conversation about 6 of your subjects. So,
okay, all right.
Such important subject.
Sure.
Charlie Kirk. So he was cremated 2 days after the supposed killing. There's reportedly no pictures at all of the hospital, the ambulance, of
funeral,
anything involved.
The car.
Yeah,
the car was never even part of an investigation. Nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a movie by Hitchcock from the 1950s called North by Northwest. And Cary Grant kind of played a role like that, where they pretended to shoot him and then they drive him off suddenly and so forth. But I don't know which issue. The ID, I want to just mention on that. You picked up on this. It's a digital ID that will do us in.
Yes.
Down the line, the central bank currency will be down the line.
Yeah.
But once they got digital ID, they can use credit scores. They can decide whether you're going to receive money to eat. And one area they've really advanced on this, advanced in many ways we don't even know about, is that the biggest employer in America is the federal government. The federal government, you cannot work for them. I think a contract applies to contractors too, unless your check goes straight to a bank that's highly controlled or regulated by the federal government.
Oh, amen. I'm so glad you said that. Yes.
Yeah. And so there's, Trump rehired, or supposedly, I don't know what percentage of the military that was fired because they won't take the shots or the test, but he won't hire a bigger portion of the federal government that was hired, the federal workers. But
Right.
he has plans to use the military, and he's already using them. So we got to get as many of them, but not the federal employees were not. They still refused to hire us anyway. But getting on to the you're going back to the point about what was COVID-19. So the two areas that I agree with you is there's many goals, purposes. Often the conspiracy won't do things unless they have multiple gains. But one is to desensitize us to enslavement. And the two is to measure how willing we're to tolerate enslavement and murder. And that's extremely, I think that was a dry run. It wasn't too dry for a lot of people that are dead today and that are suffering from, some reports you've reported on your show, independent assessments between 18 and 22 million have died in the world from the shots already. And of course, they're still dying. Anyway, I think that's what's really important, because they've told us over these centuries, one of their biggest goals is to enslave mankind, an elite cabal owning the world. So if you do reverse engineering, look at that as a goal, then you go back and it makes sense. They would be determining whether you're willing to be a slave. And I think that was a big deal there. the early issue of front or I like how you put that, front companies, front organizations. Yeah, that is so true. They use cover the organization's purpose, the need for what the people need the service for as cover. And it's also important, you can call it a bait. They get you to come to Starbucks because, they got good coffee. So they have these baits out there that you get into the cage, and then they use surveillance to keep track of you. Now, one of the best places to go to jump straight to understanding how controlled these corporations are is the Council on Foreign Relations membership list. The last time I looked, this is like 10 years ago, it was like 4,800 people, members. They determine who the members are. And they are the CEOs, the presidents, the corporations. They run the media. You see media heads everywhere. You see the university heads. You see a government. 10% of them are powerful people in government, mainly the federal government. But if you go there, you can just go down the list of corporations that are headed up by these people. And you mentioned some of them, Boeing and so forth. But so that's one way to gauge. If I had the opportunity, I could give you probably 800, 900 corporations that have proven beyond a doubt that they work for the conspiracy. Fortune 500, there may be no corporation in the Fortune 500 that's not working for them. If there is, there's very, very few of them. So if you want to understand about that, and if for any of your listeners, I really don't understand the Council on Foreign Relations, 2 points. One, you were going to hand the president on. Remember Richard Haas?
Oh yes, yeah. He didn't do that interview.
Show. Yeah, you asked me to put something together in terms of some history.
That's right.
And sent that to you. Yeah. And when I was going through that, I think it was like 80 pages I sent you or something like that. Anyway, when I was going through that, one thing they kept saying over and over again was treasonous, that America has to be abolished as a country. Every nation of the world has to be abolished. We have to have one world government. And they were so open about that.
Right.
So that's the other point about them is they're extremely powerful. For many years, those of us who study the conspiracy believe in America, they're the front organization. They have counterparts all over Europe, the Royal Institute for International Affairs, and I think it is.
We could go on and on, Mark. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but anyway, go to the count. They put their membership list out. There's some indication it's not correct. And just go down there and look at the heads of all these powerful corporations that are members of this treasonous organization.
Oh, I'm with you. And by the way, thank you. Thank you for calling in. Really appreciate you. All right. Very knowledgeable. So, a couple of things. Number one of the questions that came up for me was, I asked you, why do they have public executions? And then why do they have private ones? What's the deal with that? Okay. So why would they want it to be public? You can hide more when they're private. But in this case, let's just maybe speculate for just a moment. Okay. Why would they want that? Why would they want to take somebody off the stage? We'll put it that way. Whether he's dead or not, Charlie Kirk, because I know there's a lot of debate. Like I've said over and over again, it doesn't really matter because they've taken him off the stage anyway. Okay. So why? What was the point of that? That's what we should be asking ourselves. So number one, you have a very big event happening in front of a lot of people. And all of a sudden you have a lot of media that's not mainstream, just a lot of media coming out and talking about all these adding different things to the story. Okay. So information overload, I think, would be one vehicle that they would love to use. Also, keep introducing little pieces as we go, because then what it does is it discredits the first people that started talking about it, because then you have all these little new pieces coming out. Okay. And then you have what I would probably describe as kind of engineered, manufactured chaos and information. So you don't realize confusion over what happened. And then, of course, if you look at the whole thing, in the Charlie Kirk case, you've got just things that aren't plausible or logical. You have things that are missing. Okay. We still haven't ever seen Tyler Robinson actually getting gas and going up there. You'd have to stop for gas. I know, because I live in Utah. And we don't have him plotting and planning where he's going to be. And there's no pictures of him with a gun. There's all kinds of things like that that I've already talked about on the show. You have too many witnesses, right? And you've got too many people coming in with bits of information, multiple theories. Same thing happened with JFK. Now, I think part of the whole JFK thing was to create what was then known as the conspiracy theorists. So you didn't believe in the narrative, because at that time you just kind of believed the narrative. You didn't believe in the narrative. You were questioning Walter Cronkite as he was giving you the details, okay? And so they were coined conspiracy theorists to discredit any question that they had. Now, we're already there, so then why the Charlie Kirk thing, right? So I'm just asking that question. So here's one thing, trauma-based mind control, 100%, yes. And planting false conspiracy trails, because there were a lot of people kind of planting false info and false video that showed things that actually weren't the way it really was. A lot of concentration on the people with the hand signals behind him at first. So there was a lot of things like that were trickled out. And then now it's an exploding mic. So there's lots of confusion over what really happened. And I think there are reasons for that. I think they're actually kind of gearing us up for more you're one of those people. You're a person that believes every little bit of info that comes along, and you just don't want to believe the narrative. So you're grasping, and you're a conspiracy nutcase. So we have a lot of people out there that's their mission, is to make it look like anyone that doesn't believe the narrative is crazy. So you either are gullible or crazy. There's two extremes in America, and if you're not you're in one of those camps now. So controlled opposition pops up, and then you've got loose ends, and still to this day, when was the funeral? It just did not follow any logical steps, and still to this day, there's no investigation on those planes. Kash Patel said he was investigating all these multiple people. It's one of the biggest gag orders on the attorneys, I think, in the history of Utah. All these people are under gag orders. Why? So nothing about it is making sense. Okay. Gag orders for the trial, for what's coming for Tyler Robinson. Okay. So there's just too many things. And this didn't happen with Scalia. You still had it, but you didn't have a lot of witnesses comparing stories either. So they must be in a sort of psychological warfare right now to tear apart and make it very divisive within the conspiracy theorists, if you want to call it that. I think it's a stupid name, but anyone questioning the narrative, now you want to make the groups look very divisive. Okay. Because on the JFK thing, I think there's a lot more consensus on what happened there. Granted, so many decades ago, but there's more consensus. In this, there's not a huge consensus on what actually happened. So I think they're trying to, if you're asking my opinion, which you're not, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. I think they're actually making it so the groups are sort of not trusting of each other. Okay. And so a lot more division. So there's that. Let me go back to this Facebook post. Again, it's getting shared a lot. I really appreciate that. So it's kind of like the ulterior motive for flying problems. I alluded to this, I think, a week ago, but I don't think the flying issues are coming from incompetence. I think the flying issues are coming from a desire to make it more, have a reason to jack up the prices, have a reason to have more limited flights. And as they limit, and as we're put into smart cities, and as travel is controlled, there's your key, travel is controlled. So then if you're part of the system, if your social credit's high, then you may get the opportunity to fly if you have enough money. They're going to make it in the haves and have-nots. They're going to make it about, you can't fly and see your grandkids if you're not part of the system. That's what they're moving toward. It has nothing to do with incompetence, because you're thinking in 2025, why in the hell can't they fly a plane without major issues, problems, people dying, like crazy stuff happening on the flights, and it's in the news daily. So a lot of crashes. Have you guys been noticing that? A lot of weird, not that we don't have crashes, but the volume is up. So there's that. So 435-680-2503 is the call-in line, and you are more than welcome to call in. Now, one more question now that I'm remembering it, because I had forgotten. There was another question about the front companies, and it was about foreign intelligence. And so the comment was on Facebook, well, and it was a good question. I know people think in these terms. Well, what about foreign intelligence? Because you're saying that it's controlled by the deep state, but what about the foreign intelligence? Because look at Russia and China. I mean, what it was being alluded to was the fear and of our enemy. And I said, we own foreign intelligence. It's a racket that's spread out to a lot of different countries, and they all have their own. Like, you never hear about Germany's, okay? Has a weird name. I can't remember the name offhand, but it has a weird long name, and people don't ever talk about it. They talk about MI6, they talk about Mossad, they talk about CIA, but they don't really talk about all these other countries that have their CIAs. But the CIAs are coming from a universal source, one that is very tightly controlled. Because if you look back in history, all of these sort of CIAs all cropped up basically around the same time period. Okay, so everybody got their little intelligence racket with no rules and no law applied, and could run the show. But I don't think they run the show independently. You can totally disagree with what I'm saying, and you can call up. I'm fine. But I think they are very much part of one network, one web. And that, like I've said many, many times, Mossad doesn't do anything without us. I don't think Germany's CIA does anything without us. We are, it's kind of like how we ran the global COVID show. If you want to go back to something that is tangible, go back to the COVID show. They ran that globally from here, although they blamed it on China, which was ridiculous. Okay. The Chinese didn't do it. The Chinese were part of the apparatus, but they didn't do it. But we blamed it on them so nobody would look at us. But then we ran the show. So if you really look at who ran things through the WHO, okay, through the WHO, it was us, right? It was Fauci. It was us. So that's why it kind of tears at the China story, because, we had such control so early on from the onset, and we controlled the narrative. Okay. And we controlled what these other companies were doing, countries. I'm sorry. So, yeah, there's way more there, but I think we own the foreign intelligence, and I think that they do the bidding according to one major source, not their own country dictating what they do. Okay, but it was a good question, and I really appreciate that. One gal got on and said, it's interesting. It's kind of refreshing to just hear thoughts that are out of the box. And not that she was aligned with everything I was saying, but just that she appreciated hearing something else besides the same things coming from the same people, and not having any other thought, right, outside of, because people usually don't bring up, like we bring up on the show, population, the number of population. I'm sorry, but it's way overinflated. And they don't bring up, oh gosh, you name it. You could name so many things that we talk about on this show that I think are very managed and manipulated, and they don't go there. There's a lot of places they don't go. So it's fine. Like the Cold War, I really question the Cold War. There was kind of an interesting, I was doing, looking at my research and doing some more research on the Cold War, and it was so interesting because the consensus was a consensus. It was like, how do I describe this? we figured that even though Stalin went in 2017, we waited till after the Second World War to really go in and have a Cold War on communism after Russia had lost the most troops, completely economically damaged Russia, right? And they're ready for a Cold War right after, like a year, 2 years later? I don't think so. And so we sort of, so if you go back and you ask and you start looking at history, what comes up is, well, there was a consensus that they were going to spread communism over here. You mean they didn't win the war, but they have the ability, after losing the most troops, to come over here to spread communism? Okay. So the whole Hollywood thing was a made up witch hunt to get everybody to think, well, you're Hollywood starlets. See, this is how serious they're taking it. Now, the thing that was real about it was McCarthy saying, look, we do have this element of ideology. That was true. But the whole production of Hollywood, that was to get everybody on board thinking that there was a serious Cold War happening. So, yeah. All right. So can you, if you want to, you can give me, ulterior motives. I want to hear them. Give me something that has happened, but it was not about what the result was going to be. It's kind of like really looking at COVID and going, okay, so the real hill to die on with COVID for the deep state, the real goal was digital transformation of our whole medical experience. It was partly about watching how we were going to cope and get through that, and who was going to step up and start voicing opposition. But at the end of the day, the big thing is basically about the goal of utilizing it for a transformation digitally, putting us into that space, right? Same thing with elections. The ulterior motive there is to use the hanging Chad back in 2000 to bring in a solution, and that was digital elections. So digital elections since 2004, whoever gets in is going to please the party, and they'll flip the switch to who can please the party. So, and keep it very tightly controlled in Congress, the Senate, all the way down to local races. So, unless we have cities and counties change that, like I've said many times on the show, it ain't happening. We're not going to fix elections unless counties, mayors, and cities step up and become autonomous and say, absolutely not in our city. We're going to get some money to actually make sure that the elections are watched over in paper ballots. Okay. All right, caller, go right ahead.
The Cold War was from 1945 to 1990, they declared, was just phony as you could believe. The communist revolution was always part of the grand conspiracy. They put the Bolsheviks in power in Russia. They aided and abetted Stalin and Lenin constantly. A great source for that is Anthony Sutton's books. He was a member of the Hoover Institute at Stanford University, and how he showed U.S. industry, U.S. government did everything they could during the Cold War and prior to that, all the way back to 1817, to keep the communists in power and to expand their power. The Soviet Union was about ready to go bankrupt, and it could collapse in the early 30s. FDR recognized them with a recognition. Countries around the world started giving them loans and investing in them. They kept, when they had one of these new deals where they acted like they were getting liberalization and changing a little bit, our U.S. government kept giving them aid and credit throughout the world, and we gave them the hydrogen bomb, both the atomic bomb and the plants, Major Jordan's diaries. It's online.
Mhm.
You'll just get shocked at the head of the Lend-Lease telling them how the White House told him to shut up when he said, we're sending them the plans for the bomb, we're sending them the
Mhm.
materials, everything.
Mhm.
From 1945 to mid 1970s, about 50 million people in the world died at the hands of communism. Most of them were Eastern Europe, but even more so in Asia,
Mhm.
Eastern Asia. Of course, the Vietnam War was lost by our government intentionally.
Mhm.
The Korean War was lost. Who said that basically was, among other military, was McCarthy. He headed up
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
Allied forces.
Get it. Yep.
We kept sending the plans, our government, the plans for McCarthy battles where he was going into battles to the
Mhm.
UN, and the UN just sent him over to the enemy. And even the enemy, there's an interview, the head general said, I would not have crossed China, 1,000
Mhm.
million Chinese came into the war. He said, I would have never crossed the river, Yahoo, whatever name of the river between China and North Korea, or Korea. And he said, I would never have crossed it if I wasn't told that they had McCarthy controlled,
Mhm.
and they did.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. There's a lot of elements. What's funny is even to this day, if you if you do any research on it, they go, yeah, we really don't know how it started. They're really vague. Okay, very vague on the Cold War, and it was a real reason for intelligence agencies to ramp up, to have some sort of purpose, to save us all from the enemies, wherever those people were, and basically cry out that even though Russia had just lost all these people, that they were going to spread communism. Well, the deep state was spreading the ideology, but of course, I think people thought that it only came from Russia. So very bizarre that at the end of a war, when everyone's fatigued and ready to hang up their boots for a while, this would be the time when Russia, despite what had just happened to Russia, comes out and said, and they say that Russia wanted. So it's very vague. They claim that they just knew that Russia wanted to spread to communism all over the world, all over the world, and that it was going to do that. Now, it's oddly weird to me that people still don't question that. It is. It's very strange because I thought it was a great cover. That ideology was coming just like the Bolsheviks were transported into Russia to change Russia, take it over, and that came from the deep state. So kind of interesting that we don't ever really attribute it to the deep state. We attribute it to certain countries that makes zero sense that you would go fight a war, that you would have all of these that you would lose so much of your fighting force and be in a position where you're really vulnerable to then start a Cold War. Yeah, it was such a front. So there's that. Okay. Anyway, 435-680-2503. Of course, give you guys a few minutes to call up. If you want to talk about an ulterior motive, if you want to talk about, I think a lot of people go, well, what's the bigger picture? That's probably the question I get asked the most. What's the bigger picture? What's actually going on? Now I can just give you what I'm studying, and I can give you what I think. You can take that for what it is. But I do realize that we have let me kind of go here for a second. When Facebook sort of changed the algorithms and all of a sudden you got flooded with follow this person, follow that person kind of stuff, okay, kind of pages. When that happened, it was like the last 2 years we have been inundated with crazy, is that real? Is that fake? AI? Nobody really feeling ever settled on what's going on. And I think that's why this question and why I'm dealing on it with the show so much is because this is what people are asking me in email. So this is why I'm covering this right now. Now, sometimes it can seem like I'm covering some of the same things. I get that. But I'm just telling you that this is where people are at right now, is they're so confused, but they truly want to know what that bigger agenda is, because they know in their heart of hearts and that gut feeling that it isn't what it seems in so many ways. Okay. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead, caller. You're live.
Well, hey, Kate, how are
Hi,
you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Well, you're right. Like the biggest agenda is digital ID, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to see where all of
Yeah.
this leads, look at China.
Right.
Look at the surveillance. Look
Yeah.
at the control. And it's so sad because I was just watching a gentleman. He was a reporter over there,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try. But he is one of 23 million people
Mm-hmm.
on a blacklist. So because he was asking questions and he was showing that the government was corrupt,
Mm-hmm.
then they make it so that he is ostracized from society. And we got a just a tiny glimpse of it during COVID. But this is on steroids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you put all of your biometric and banking and whatever information, right, about what you buy and what you eat and all of that, they have the ultimate control.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I was also talking to a lot of different people online about, you know, right now the big thing is the measles scare.
Oh, geez.
And that's still continuing to be pushed, right? And you'll see it in your local newspaper or online or at your grocery store, which is insane how they give vaccines. And the poor old people, sorry, but they are, because they're just so naive and they're lined up for these shots. Well, the crazy part was in this conversation online was so many people across the country, they're having outbreaks of rashes. Okay. Now, when they go in to the doctor to say, what is wrong with my kid? The first question they get asked is, well, it looks like measles. Have they been vaccinated? So they will say, yes, my child is fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
And the doctor will ask multiple times because you can see on this doctor's face that it's not making sense. This kid was vaccinated. This kid shouldn't have these measles, but all of the symptoms are pointing to measles. My brain is going to blow out because I'm not supposed to say that the vaccine doesn't work. So what do they do? Instead of testing a good doctor, no matter what, a good engineer, a good whoever you are in whatever field, you go through the process of elimination, or you should be. They refuse to test for measles when the child presents with a rash and says that they have been vaccinated for measles. They refuse to test.
My gosh.
So you wonder why. And this is why these doctors who think that they're doing what they're told they're going to be saved, they're going to be the first to go. And they will not have any ability to critically think and go out on their own and do their own home doctor. We're going to go back to home doctoring. We are.
Oh, we have to. Yeah, we should.
But that's why when you read in your local newspaper that all of these measles cases among the unvaccinated, you want to know why? Because they refuse to test the vaccinated. Because this is what's happening is people are getting vaccinated and then they go and why do we have it when school starts again? Because the vaccine sheds. So all the kids that maybe the vaccine wore off because it's not lifetime immunity, then they pick it up. Chickenpox is the same. If your kid never got the real chickenpox, they're going to get it at some time in their life.
Yeah.
Sorry, but that's just how it is unless they get the real deal. So all of these headlines, again, are steering you to think, oh, the government's going to save me. Oh, I've got to have whatever it is. Right. And this is just a piece of the puzzle and that overarching umbrella to get you into digital ID, because instead of going back and forth with the doctor about my child's vaccinated, then you can just say, well, just look it up with my digital ID. Right.
Yeah.
And over in the UK, they are having a dang hard time convincing. Finally, it might be too late, but they are finally, even the news reporters are going after Keir Starmer, that little Nazi communist, and saying, what is the benefit of a digital ID? They cannot give you a valid reason.
Yeah.
They try, but they keep going in circles because there is none. There absolutely is no reason for
with you.
this surveillance state. But I just wanted to let people know especially about these vaccines. Question everything. And when your doctor refuses to test, number one, I would hope and pray that you would stand up and say, "What's the problem, doc?
Yeah.
Test my kid." You don't have to say, "Do you not believe, X, Y, and Z?" Just say, "I want him tested, and I'm not leaving till you do." And then get a new doctor. When you're all done, get a new doctor.
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
get that recorded and say, and if my kid has a rash, they've been vaccinated. Guess what? The vaccine doesn't work.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Thank you. I love the call. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. It was great. Okay, a couple more things, and then we will we'll end today's show. Look, you have to kind of look at where the money's going, and I think something very important to realize would be J.P. Morgan investing. Because if you're thinking that I'm just off my rocker, okay, you could, I guess. But look, J.P. Morgan Chase revealed a 1.5 trillion 10-year plan, and it's going into aerospace, drones, robotics, next gen connectivity, autonomous systems, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, because they're going to have to make it look like there's real hackers doing hacking things to cause things to happen, even though I doubt it'll be actual hackers. I think they're going to be bought and paid for hackers. And quantum computing. These are some of the investments being made. And so I'm just saying that you do really only have to follow the money. I mean, you're going to kind of know where we're going. So when I'm looking at things, I'm looking at patterns. It's kind of like going through and comparing the murder styles of JFK and Scalia, right? Totally different for maybe some different purposes, but that they're going to get out of that. But it's always comparing and contrasting in patterns with events in history. And when you kind of look at where we're headed and where they're putting money, okay, I'm going to say that I would say it's pretty accurate that the bigger reason for many things going on right now is so that we have more, so that everything lends into digital transformation and digital ID. That's very important to them. It's also very important to have these mechanisms of tracking. Now, it's kind of, this is kind of an interesting thought, but the whole 5G thing, I know that there's lots of conjecture on 5G, what it can do. Okay. And we've talked about a lot of these angles, but then what would be the reason for 5G? What would be the major angle behind it? And it could be very, very simple. And that is to present enough of these 5G towers that we were told have to be in huge amounts and have to be close together, right? Because there can't be a situation where you cannot be tracked. So if I went without my phone, it would leave me as more of a free agent, right? So in 2020, they started rolling out 5G, and then they started rolling out those weird lights in the center divider on the freeway, weird light posts with these apparatuses on them that look very creepy. And years back, like 2022, 2023, I was doing some shows on this, but what is their capability, right? Because you're kind of probably wondering why it was all rolled out at the same time. You had 5G and then this transformation of lights that probably didn't need to be transformed, okay, into the new ones. But the new ones have special equipment on them that we've never had before. So what's going on? And it could just be laying down a bigger tracking availability so that no matter what, even if you didn't have your phone, even if you tried to escape the system, they have the system and apparatus built around you. There's no escaping your location, and it got a lot more clear where your location was and a lot more precise because of this nationwide apparatus with 5G. So we were told, what were we told? The cover story was, oh, your Netflix movie will stream faster. Okay, that's not happening. That's not happening. So your Netflix movie isn't coming down any faster that anyone would notice. But that was the true cover story. And I think that this equipment, along with in every city I've been to, how about you guys? In every city, I'm noticing that the street lights, those very, very big ones, especially down the corridors of major highways in major cities, totally got revamped. For what reason? So think about this for just a second. Cities put those in different time periods, right? And cities develop over time, and so you have cities putting them all in a different time, but they all got overhauled at the same time. They all needed it. There wasn't a need. See, it was more about tracking. So there's a lot of speculation about 5G, but I'm going to say that I think that there is also sort of this basic, simplified reason for that is to develop location tracking of your data, the availability to grab your data no matter where you go. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show. Go right ahead.
Make it short. To make it short, it's all about nanotechnology. They're planning on using our built-in biological system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's very possible.
Nanobots that can interface with the cell networks, aka via 5G.
Okay.
And either take us out or maintain us, whether we obey the. Anyway, that's
okay.
it.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Interesting. Okay. Caller, you're live. Go right ahead. Okay. All righty. Lost the caller, but call back. It's fine. I'll give you a few minutes to call back. I think at the heart of it is precise location tracking. I think that that's why the system is being laid down the way it's being laid down. I could be wrong, but I do feel like a major reason behind it was that because of the way it was rolled out and when it was rolled out. And it was rolled out when everybody was locked in for the COVID lie. So, all right, caller, go right ahead. You're live.
Yeah, what they are, Kate, they're definitely not for your internet or your computer. They're frequency towers, and they're hitting you with all different forms of frequencies.
Could be very true.
And they know how to target every organ in your body. And along with the COVID jab, with all the nanotechnology that's flourishing through all the jab people, they can target in frequency and cause cancer or any type of life illness. And that's what they are. They are death towers.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah. And hey, I'm not diminishing any of that. I just, for some reason, think that it's more about what I just talked about. The way of the rushed implementation. Okay. It was very, very rushed. You had, sort of like, all these coverage areas in a time of shortages. They sure had ample enough street lamps being made and apparatuses being made. They still had an ample supply of the 5G towers. So there was a reason that they did it when we were all preoccupied and it was all rushed. And so there's definitely a coordinated rollout there. Okay, caller, go right ahead. You're live.
Hey there, Kate.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Go right ahead.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah. So I agree with these last two callers that, they're putting up this frequency fence. And it does so many things. Everything they do is multifaceted. But yeah, the nanotech and the 5G, I think it stands for fifth generation warfare. Everything they do is like so precise, coordinated. It's like Arthur Firstenberg's book, The Invisible Rainbow.
Yes. Has nothing to do with rainbows as we have in context today with the LGBTs. It has everything to do with what you're talking about and our technology through history. So.
And people will never put two and two together. They'll just think it's COVID-20 or whatever they call it.
Yes.
And people won't listen to you.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah. And they even made sure they put it on cruise ships and all kinds of places in 2020, where I thought it was kind of interesting at the time, because that's one of the first things that we talked about on the show when it came to Blovid. It was January, and you had people being very ill on these boats that it was being implemented on. And and now looking back, it's like, well, where's a place that you could go pretty much on a cruise? It's not going to be viable to track you a lot unless you have systems on board. It's difficult, right? Because Wi-Fi usually doesn't work, things like that. But I thought it was kind of fascinating to watch all of this at the same time. The complete dominance of this system, and where it's more instantaneous. So your everything that you do, because even your phone at that point was then going, oh, you're on your way home? Okay, I will assist you with the route. Oh, hey, you're taking a different route that's probably not as fast. I mean, people started seeing all of that, but I don't think they were really putting two and two together with this instantaneous, very manipulated rollout in a time of shortages when we didn't have anything. You couldn't get toilet paper, but they had enough 5G towers ready to go. I'm sorry, that takes an awful lot of time. And you would have thought that during that moment when everyone's so afraid of Blovid, that you would not put people out there putting those things in. But man, they sure had people paid to put those things in, and they were all over the country. So very coordinated.
This gal I used to work with before the giant bank I worked for let me go and let off 1,000 people during COVID. They sent us home and said, after 6 months, see you later. Yeah. They knew what was coming. They had us prep in our books for the departure and to move those clients on to different customers. But this gal that I worked with, her husband worked on those 5G towers. He worked for the phone companies, putting up the 5G towers everywhere. And they both had sleep issues, but this guy would have, I don't know if you'd want to call it sleep paralysis, but he would scream in the night, just like these blood-curdling screams. And I tried to tell her that it's because he's got so much exposure to this, weapon system. But
okay. Crazy. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, thanks. There's just so many things we could cover with that, because you got into real-time tracking with 5G, whereas you had data being lifted, but not like it is now. So there were some pretty transformative things that happened. And if you notice, it took like 1 year to 2 years for people to actually notice and then go, wait a second here. I mean, you had the people talking about 5G on the cruise ships and things like that. Not very many, though. And people just weren't preoccupied with it at all. And I mean, they did it at the most opportune time that they possibly could, which was kind of scary. Okay, caller, go right ahead. You're live.
Hey, greetings, Kate.
Hey.
Sorry about the other missed calls, but let me try to tie a bow on this, as you would say.
Okay.
It's more than just tracking. This is effectively part and parcel of corralling the people. There's a genocide of the world population, I believe. Number one, COVID has sterilized so many people worldwide that there's not going to be another generation if the children don't produce more people, and they're not. And that's a problem. Number two, as they say, the whack-a-mole system, when depending on how much of a bandwidth you have, like you, taken off the air because you were spreading the gospel to too many people. Charlie Kirk, a bigger bandwidth, gone. The reality is that when they start looking at people's access to firearms, and they can eliminate them by claiming that they are mentally deficient, or that's a crazy person. The guy supposedly a transgender, whatever. So now we need to ban guns for people with transgender, but we can't say transgender, so we'll say mentally defective or crazy. So the witch hunts come to mind. All they've got to do is declare have two people to say, yeah, he's crazy, and then they come and take your guns, and if you put up a fight, they just kill you. But ultimately, they've got to take the guns because there's too many people with too many guns. And just the other day, you got people coming out saying that the song Rocky Top that the University of Tennessee has, because part of the language in there says, once two strangers climbed over Rocky Top looking for a moonshine still.
Mm-hmm.
The strangers ain't come down from Rocky Top. I reckon they never will. They say that is a threat to law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want to ban that song. Anything that talks about people standing up for their God-given rights or talking about taking, quote, the law into their own hands, those are being targeted. So
yeah,
you'll start, people pay attention, they're going to see these things, but ultimately they've got to take the guns before they can eliminate the population, at least in this country.
Yeah. And that's often a distance. They're trying by bits and pieces to get us to change. It's kind of like why we're getting the bait and switch with our own conservatives that are saying, well, it's okay if we take them away from pot smokers and trans, right? Because you don't like those communities. And that's how they're selling it. So, yeah.
Exactly. They find people that the vast majority might say, well, we can compromise on that. Like people that have been convicted of a crime that's a year and a day. If you're an under, you can still have your gun, but if it's a year and a day, well, your God-given right no longer qualifies, at least for the ability to defend yourself.
Yeah.
And so they look the other way until it affects them.
I'm with you. Thank you. Really appreciate the call. It's a good point. It's a great point. Great point. Fantastic point. And by the way, night terrors have been linked to EMFs. Yeah, for sure. Getting some messages in. By the way, the new streetlight technology, the LED systems, that got rolled out in 2020 when you couldn't get toilet paper, but you could have this put up. This actually went in, and here was the reason for it that they told us. They're energy efficient, because in 2020 that was our biggest thing, right? We want energy efficient street lamps. Said no one. So they're energy efficient, smart city backbone. Oh, they actually use this as a selling point, but nobody was really paying attention because of COVID that blows. Streetlights can serve as a platform for other smart city technology. And so, yes, it's all about tracking. It's all about instantaneous data being uploaded. And of course, it said they were going to reduce light pollution and improve thermal management. These were the reasons, I kid you not, when they rolled this out. And everyone should have been asking, but how are they doing all of this? How are they putting all these streetlights in if we have shortages? If we can't get anything right now? How are they all ready to go? Nobody asked that question. Of course, I'm going to give you your AI overview for this. In 2020, new streetlight technology saw the rollout of I'm going to say it in a voice that makes you calm. In a smart modular design in cities like Los Angeles, which integrate technology like 5G and EV chargers into a single pole. Other advancements, including solar-powered lights to prevent copper theft, because yes, copper theft was the big problem in America. And dark sky compliant LEDs could improve visibility without causing light pollution. I'm sorry, did you have a problem with light pollution as you're driving down the road? Because they addressed this without ever asking anybody. So they came up with reasons. They were all fakish. Fakery. And then they even got an award. I kid you not. They got the CES 2020 Innovation Award. Now, while you were all, made to stay in your homes, couldn't get a haircut, couldn't go to the park because you were arrested, and cities went along with this. They're so gross. Anyway, they all went along with that. They were getting a 2020 Innovation Award called the North American Lighting's Blade Scan ADB system, and this was recognized for its smart high beam control system. All kinds of awards, and nobody questioned the shortages, and nobody questioned anything. Now, what's funny is this was supposed to stop the copper wire theft, right? That's what they said 5 years ago. Oh, but it didn't. So in 2025, just 2 months ago, LA this was honestly the headline. LA has a plan to stop copper thieves, through the streetlights, which means if they're reporting about it in 2025, it didn't actually stop that. What a ruse. What a story. So anyway, yeah, that whole copper theft thing. Yeah, big deal. So this is the future of street lighting. Amazon Web Services put this out, and man, they used 2020 to roll that out when everyone was supposed to be afraid of germs. So I have to laugh, otherwise you'll just cry. Okay, but here's the thing, and I said this on Facebook too. Look, enjoy your families, enjoy your loved ones. Go have fun. Go enjoy your life. This stuff does not hamper that for me. Okay. It's my husband's birthday today. Turned 61 today. And so happy birthday, Clint. And he is my rock, by the way. I could not do this without him. I mean, I don't know too many men that could put up with doing like their wives doing this for a living. So, you know, he deserves a medal. But let me just say, you know, he's a rock, and he's just a good man, They just don't come better. And we're going to spend time with family tonight, right? Because it's his birthday. And look, all I'm saying is enjoy. And when people go, all you ever talk about is this kind of stuff, the sky isn't falling, look around, you know, everything's okay-ish. All I'm talking about is the observance of what's happening, just like in 2020, when people would have said the exact same thing to me. And I was saying, hey, streetlights, hey, those are changing. That's weird. I'm kind of noticing all this weirdness going on with the streetlights. And why are they rolling out 5G? And how do they have enough of this? And how did they have enough shots all ready to go for a mystery that they couldn't name? Come on. It doesn't mean that you're one of the sky is falling people. It means that you're observing and you're looking at patterns and you're sharing that, which is exactly what we should be doing right now. Okay. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy the things that in your life or the wonderfulness of your life, because you're supposed to. But you're also supposed to be smart enough to observe what's happening around you. So I just wanted to just to say that again, that my trust is not in government. So it doesn't mean that I'm so terrified that I can't take a step out, because I am terrified of all the stuff that I read every day. All it does is it makes it so that I understand that God can perform miracles, and that God can help, and that he's going to be there through all of this, and that we're going to see those miracles in the same way of seeing some of the greatest things happen in our favor as an equal component of, we're going to see some of the worst things happen to us, right? But there's always the good. So don't ever think there's not the good. It's so important to realize that. And also, on another note, just leaving today's show, I also saw the Springsteen movie. Now, Springsteen is woke as heck. Okay, so there's no good reason for me to see that, other than there was no cinematic offering adventure that I could go see at that moment. And the only other things were really vile, crude humor, rated R humor, and sex, or I could go see the evil violence of Satan and horror, like you've never seen it before, because it's Halloween time. So of course, every single movie is out and it's all pretty vile. Well, I don't like to see those movies. In fact, I've never paid to get into a horror movie since I was like 14 and snuck into one. I've never since then. And I think that one was like the 1976, like James Brolin movie. Do you guys remember that? The James Brolin movie about the house, Amityville Horror. Okay, we all snuck into that. Gosh, how old was I? I was probably like 12, maybe. Anyway, scarred me. So I don't remember how old I was, but I just remember going, "Oh my gosh, this is scary," and regretting that decision. Okay, so I was actually younger than that. Anyway, I was hightailing it with all of the older siblings and so forth. Okay. So I get into this movie, and I don't pay for horror. So I don't go to horror movies. I don't like horror. So this was it. So the Springsteen movie, I'm going to wrap this up for you, because this is what the movie was. You're not going to learn anything about Springsteen, because I like biopics, right? So I like to see what they say. So I know Dylan's was all contrived, and because Dylan was like handpicked to be Bob Dylan, even his name was changed. But in this, I was kind of curious about Bruce's background, okay? Because he's definitely somebody they utilize, whether he's on the payroll or not, who knows, but he's definitely somebody they utilize and keep around and keep famous. So I go in with an expectation because it's a biopic to see something about his life. But it wasn't about that at all. In fact, you don't really understand. You see glimpses of childhood and that he had a very distant father. And that was about that. You don't really see his launch into music, how he was discovered, his first time on stage, like none of that. They bypassed that. And the movie was about him brooding, walking around with his hands in his pockets. He's brooding. He's sad. He's very sad. And then he's sad again. And then he's staring off and then he's sad again. And he can't quite get a hold of his mental health for 2 solid hours. Okay. And everyone around him is equally as depressed and sad. And they're all concerned about Bruce being sad, but they're equally as sad. So the entire movie is 2 hours of depression and mental illness awareness. And then it's over and the credits were rolling. And my cute husband's like, what was the purpose of that? Like, I don't know. I have no idea. You did not. So in his depression, he was producing songs that were kind of crappy. And everyone around him was trying to tell him that it was kind of crappy, but he was convinced in his mind of depression and mental illness that it was art. So then everybody declared it so. They declared that it was art. And so they let him publish these songs and that were written in a state of depression. And that is basically the entire movie. I just saved you money, time. You don't have to even see it because unless you want to jump off a bridge at the end of 2 hours on your way home from seeing this movie, I would probably recommend that you don't. And the thing is I'm laughing because I don't go to the movies a lot because there isn't too many offerings. And it's not like how it was even before 2020, where you could go see a rom-com like once in a while. I mean, it's really been taken over by certain genres and all they can do is repeat. So you got edition 5,000 of Spider-Man, edition 5,000 of Marvel Comics. It's like they can't come up with anything new. So I was thinking, a biopic, that's different. Okay, I'll suffer through his wokeness, but I just want to see how they convey this to the world because I remember the Bob Dylan one and that was okay. But this was just, I mean, I was so depressed. I Clint and I walk out and he's like, I need something happy. Like that was 2 excruciating hours of my life that I'm not going to get back. So just so you know, anyway, they just can't come up with good movies anymore. And not like they ever were really. I mean, you've got a lot of the control apparatus through Hollywood and a lot of messaging and things like that. I'm very aware. Trust me, I look at this all the time. But sometimes it is nice to get a distraction for 2 hours, like not political theater distraction, but another kind of distraction. Yeah, that one isn't it. So unless you want to jump off a bridge, then it's your movie. Okay. And maybe you do. I don't know. All right. So thank you. I appreciate you. Now look, I got 2 messages just as we were talking about Cardio Miracle. I'm telling you, I'm so grateful that you're trying it. I'm so grateful because it has a money back guarantee. So you're not going to lose anything. But let me just say that it is doing some amazing things. And I would not talk about it on this show unless it is that good. Okay. I took it this morning, first thing when I wake up on an empty stomach. I love it. I take it twice a day and it's really helping me. So I just wanted you to know that. I also wanted you to know that there is a lot of people freaking out about SNAP, or not really. SNAP's part of it, but SNAP kind of leaks its way into the rest of this very complex government public economy, if you will. And so it's not just going to affect SNAP, even though I think babies and moms are covered, but the rest of everybody isn't. And so it's not just about that. It's about how it affects the whole entire economy. And as this proceeds on, okay, so a lot of people out there kind of freaking out. They're just making sure they have 3 months because even looking at the Jamaica hurricane. Now, of course, they always say it's going to be a 5. Who knows? But has it hit yet? I haven't even checked. I was looking at it last night, but I haven't even checked. So let me get a quick update for you. Anyway, so looking at all of these things, let me see. Okay. I know that people are in a place of thinking, do you have 3 months of medication? Do you have 3 months of supply? Do you have 3 months of water? Do you have just 3 months to get you through whatever weather warfare they come up with? Because this hurricane, some of the people that I follow that tell more truth in the weather warfare stuff going on, they said this one was just insane how big it got and how quickly, and that it's just not normal. So, okay, and I can understand this because this has been happening quite a bit. So they're saying it's now the strongest storm on the planet this year. Storm. So maybe not a 5. And of course, bracing for worst storm in history. So they always lead out with a 5. It's going to be a 5, and then it scales back. But nonetheless, you're going to have people that don't have anything. So if weather warfare hits you, and remember last year I said, we're going to get weather warfare. Then just make sure you have 3 months, and make sure go to allfamilypharmacy.com. Make sure you have those things that you need, and you can order by the pill, and you don't have to have a doctor's script. It gets sent right to your door. Make sure you're doing that. And use allfamilypharmacy.com/Kate, just like you would use cardiomiracle.com/Kate. Make sure you have extra. And then also, go and get the ebooks as well. So the ebooks are amazing. People are loving them. I thank you for getting them if you've already gotten them, and let people know. Please share it on social media at katetalks.myshopify.com. Okay. And it helps this show stay on the air for you. So it's free for you. So isn't that nice? Anyway. All right, you guys. Thank you. Be faithful, be fearless. And I'll be back tomorrow. And of course, so glad you tuned in. Thank you for giving me a part of your day. Really appreciate it.